Yesterday we covered the part on Awaken My Life.
生命的这个当时是那个埋海教堂，埋海教堂走好像担负的这个
which
城市
happened
呢，就是
back at Church Mile High.
一种阴密啊，就是也是在那里，好像他那里的海拔是
And I think
1600
the altitude is about 1,600 meters. And the city is called Mile High. That is why the church is called Mile High Church. I forgot to mention that Leah, 当时14年，就是我去那个14年11月份 back in 2014,
就是斯坦福大学，就当时给他们
November 2014, I went to Stanford University to give a teaching. I met Leah over there, and that's when I learned back in 1993. She was. She attended the 1993 lecture at Mile High Church, and then afterwards we had other kinds of contacts. But that's when we first met in person. And now let's look at a brief introduction of Shambhala. Ponzo Rinpoche is very proficient at Kalachakra and Shambhala teachings too, the teachings on Shambhala. And when he gave the teachings, he didn't look into different kinds of references or teachings and so on. It basically just gushed out of him, his wisdom, which is quite rare. This year, the male practitioners had received the empowerment of Kalachakra, and the female practitioners almost received it, but later, unfortunately, not received it. Kalachakra has different traditions, Jonampa, Gelupa, Nyingmapa. It is of an important tantra to all different lineages because it's a teaching given directly from the Buddha. There was a song that's rather quite popular about over a decade ago where in the lyric it says that Shambhala is not too far away. People usually would say that Shambhala is such a mystic and very interesting sacred land. So let's look at a brief introduction of Shambhala. On June 28th, His Holiness Jigme Ponso Rinpoche returned to Karma Zone to deliver additional teachings. Trungpa Rinpoche not only formed Shambhala Center, Shambhala Center is also Shambhala Army. Some very special forms of Shambhala. Ponso Rinpoche, in his talk, explained the history and origin of the kingdom of Shambhala, as well as the auspicious connection between Shambhala and the Vajradhatu community. He said that I came all the way from the snowland of Tibet to the U.S. I found myself now in the place that can be called the second land of Shambhala, which is then the then name of Vajradhatu Shambhala Center. In fact, the actual kingdom of Shambhala is one of the 5 great sacred places according to the Buddhist doctrines. The 5 sacred places are: the first one is Bodh Gaya, the sacred place located at the center of this world, where all Buddhas of the 3 times will attain full awakening. Second one is Mount Wutai, the 5-peaked mountain in China, the sacred place of east, where Lord Manjushri now dwells. And then third one, Mount Potala, the sacred place of the south, where Noble Avalokiteshvara actually resides. inhabitants. And the fourth one is copper-colored mountain of Udayana, the sacred place of the west, the land of Dakinis, where Guru Padmasambhava resides. And fifth is Shambhala, the sacred place of the north. Where is Shambhala then? It is located in a place that requires an individual who wishes to arrive there to travel for 12 years, and they must possess powers to travel anywhere at will. It's been traveled by great panditas such as Chilupa of India. Not so sure how people could get there. Lots of people, even from the West, had spent lots of time and research into how to get to Shambhala. Some said that there is an entrance from Potala Palace. There's a sacred pathway to Shambhala from Potala Palace, but it is most likely not something that can be perceived or traveled to by mundane human beings. It is more similar to a sacred land of Padmasambhava that can only be traveled by people of great powers. Now, the shape of the realm of Shambhala resembles an eight-petaled lotus. How is such shape formed? At the center of the lotus is the capital city Kalapa, surrounded by 960 million smaller cities that form the shape of eight petals. So there is a circle in the center, and then the capital is called Kalapa. Whenever you look at the tanka of Shambhala, you can see those. All rivers of the kingdom wind their ways through the land and flow into the river of the capital city Kalapa. In the next teaching of the kingdom of Shambhala, Phuntsok Rinpoche give even more explicit details. Shambhala will be ruled by a line of 32 kings consisting of 7 Dharma Rajas. In lots of Qing Dynasty paintings and tankas, you can see them. And even in the Forbidden City, you can see them in display. And 25 Kalki kings, that is known as the Rigdans, with Kalki means holders of the castes. The first of the 7 Dharma Rajas of Shambhala was King Shuchandra. He was with one of the first groups of disciples who received the Kalachakra teachings from Buddha Shakyamuni that took place at the great stupa of Sri Danyakataka in the southern India, not long before Buddha's passing into parinirvana. King Shuchandra compiled the Kalachakra teachings, and that was retained in his memory in a textual form of 12,000 verses, well known as the excellent root Kalachakra Tantra, or the Sri Kalachakra in Sanskrit. Nowadays, there are people who proud themselves by saying that I can recite the 37 stanzas of the Bodhisattva or the 8 verses of training the mind. So compared to 12,000 verses, it's really nothing. Dawa Sangpo and his succeeding kings held this root tantra and taught it to the inhabitants of Shambhala during their reigns. During the reigns of the 7 Dharma Rajas, the inhabitants of Shambhala were subject to the caste system. Just like in the ancient India, they were classified into 4 principal castes: Brahmins and Kshatriyas, Yashayas, and the Shudras. A set of regulations in accordance with the caste system system existed. For example, only inhabitants of the certain castes were allowed to receive Dharma teachings, while most other castes were forbidden to do so. Through the endeavor of Manjushri Yashas, the 8 kings in Shichandra's line, the caste system was abolished, and all inhabitants of Shambhala were united into a single Vajra caste, the family of tantric practitioners. Thereby, Manjushri Yashas became known as the first Kalki king of Shambhala, the first holder of the Vajra caste. This year, those of you who received the Kalachakra empowerment also received the reading transmission. The empowerment and reading transmission were exceptionally long this year. I heard many of you were actually struggling a bit, but while listening to Dharma, I think the best attitude is to receive it with joy. He composed the abridged Kalachakra Tantra in 5 chapters, a condensed and simplified version of the root Kalachakra Tantra, and taught it to hundreds of thousands of people, including the followers of Malka religion. Which worshipped the sun. In his kingdom, his son and royal heir, Pandarika, wrote a commentary on it entitled The Stainless Light. Currently, in the Tibetan language, there are the commentary to explain this particular tantra, a few of those commentaries are quite well known. Now, in terms of the stainless light, it's been translated into Tibetan language, but it's not directly translated. Some of the history said that it's been translated from the Shambhala language into Tibetan language. The root Kalachakra Tantra, the abridged Kalachakra Tantra, and the great commentary Stainless Light were propagated and flourished in India. In terms of Tibetan translation of Kalachakra teaching, the root Tantra, the abridged Tantra, and the Stainless Light were all translated into Tibetan. In 1020, in the year 1027, the abridged Tantra appeared in India, and the Kalachakra teachings were first brought to Tibet. And that year was the name of the year Rabjung. Rabjung literally meaning the supreme one who goes forth in Tibetan, has a connotation of the appearance of the Dharma. So this name was given to mark the important time when the Kalachakra Tantra teachings come to Tibet. Beginning from that year, Rabjung was employed in the Tibetan dating system as a part of the calendar cycle. A Tibetan year following Rabjung is properly identified by 3 parts, the first 2 being the animal and the elephant, corresponding roughly to the similar identifier used the Chinese calendar, and then the third part being the Rabjung. A Rabjung is a 60-year cycle, and the first Rabjung was in 1027. The year 1993 was the 7th year of the 17th Rabjung cycle since the year when Kalachakra was brought to Tibet. There are about 23 years left in the 17th Rabjung cycle. Not many of us will be able to see the 17th Rabjung cycle. For all the Dharma Rajas and the Kalki kings, when one ruler's reign comes to an end, his successor immediately ascends to the throne. Each Kalki king reigns over Shambhala for 100 years, during which they would teach the Kalachakra teachings and transmit the lineage to the inhabitants of the 960 million cities of Shambhala. Samudra Vijaya and Aja were the 2 exceptions, as the total reign of those 2 kings was 403 years, during which Samudra Vijaya taught the Dharma for 182 years and Aja 221 years. Ponso Rinpoche, in fact, said that that the two kings will be teaching for 242 years, and each of them will be giving teaching for 221 years. However, some historical records states that Samudra Vijaya would teach the Dharma for 182 years and then Ajahn for 221. That is why it's written in this way. But we couldn't find the resource for Phuntsog Rinpoche's the numbers of years that Phuntsog Rinpoche stated back then. I'm sure he's very proficient in this, but we just had to change it in such a way because we couldn't find any source of information to support that number. Who is the present Kalki king in Shambhala? It is the 21st Kalki king, Aniruddha, and this year is the 67th year of his reign. After him, the 22nd king, Narasingha, the 23rd king is Mahashvara, and the 24th king is Anatta Vijaya, 25th is Kalki king. The last Kalki king of Shambhala kingdom is Vajradhatu. It is said that Mipa Rinpoche is the minister of this particular king, whose name also means wrathful wheel holder. By the time he assumes the throne, the Dharma will have declined in this world, and the name of the Dharma can hardly be heard by people. Even worse, among the outer cities and inner capital city of Shambhala that are encircled by snow mountains, all the outside cities will have been conquered by armies of barbarians. When they are about to invade the inner city, Kalki King Vajradhatu will appear to be furious. Fully armed, he will ride on his stone war horse, through miraculous power wield his iron wheel in the air, proceed to enter the 3 out of the 4 continents, that is Jambudvipa, Paragodimya, and Parvadiviha, in a clockwise direction to fight against the armies of barbarians. After 1 year of the battle, he will annihilate the armies of barbarians and hoist the victory banner of Buddha Dharma on the 4 continents. He will rule the kingdom for 100 years, and his 2 sons, Brahma and Srishvara, will be the principal cause for the Kalachakra teachings to thrive and prosper for as long as thousands of years without any signs of decline. This is the brief introduction of the origin and story of Shambhala. It is believed that your root Lama, that is Trungpa Rinpoche, is the future Kalki king, Vajradhatu. They kept on saying that Trungpa Rinpoche is the future king of Shambhala. There are different descriptions. In his life, Rinpoche did create many auspicious conditions in this regard. For instance, he assumed the uniform of a military officer and arranged many guards by his side. Whenever you go to the Shambhala Center, the Shambhala Center is definitely looking very different than the traditional Tibetan Buddhist centers. It is truly fortunate for you to have encountered Trungpa Rinpoche, having received his teachings and now upholding his lineage. By and large, anyone who practiced the Kagyu teachings, and particularly the Dharma teachings that Trungpa Rinpoche practiced, will be reborn in the realm of Shambhala as his warrior. What is the Dharma that he practiced? As I said yesterday, it is the gradual and complete path to full awakening that had been practiced by Jetsunmila Rinpa. Among all his practices, the most important is loving kindness and compassion, which is the one and only sublime path that is harmless and peaceful and is commonly practiced by all Buddhist all Buddhist schools. Some of you may wonder, well, we know that our Guru is an extraordinary and a great Lama, but how is his primary practice loving kindness and compassion then? We know that he's great, but how is it that it's loving kindness and compassion? Actually, all of his activities were to transmit loving kindness and compassion. Had Trungpa Rinpoche been a person who pursued fame and material offerings, he would have gained much wider fame and more offerings by staying in India or land of Tibet. Maybe India also cherish lamas. But usually, without a capacity, without that kind of capacity and insight, it's very difficult for them to give up fame and wealth. In these regions, there are many lineage holders and great masters upholding the Dharma, as well as numerous devoted Buddhist followers. Conversely, here in U.S., before he came, except for very few individuals, the majority of people had never even heard of the name of the Buddha, not to mention a word of the Dharma, nor had they ever seen a monastic Sangha. It is just because of this that Rinpoche came here and established Vajradhatu, which now has this main center along with over 100 branch Dharma centers. What he accomplished is something no other great masters in the past had ever done. This alone suffices to demonstrate the profound loving kindness and compassion in his mind. Certainly, it may be inappropriate for me to talk about the qualities of your guru, just like a stranger introducing your family member to you. Nevertheless, since I have long heard of the vast activities that Trungpa Rinpoche had accomplished while I was in the distant land of Tibet, now as I personally came here and witnessed his extraordinary deeds, my mind is filled with great amazement, joy, and devotion. I think in Halifax, Phuntsho Rinpoche also mentioned that it's not easy to propagate Dharma teachings in the West, so sometimes he would generate the mind of sadness to Trungpa Rinpoche and sometimes joy to Trungpa Rinpoche, because it is not the same to give Dharma teachings in the land of Tibet. He then continued to say that there is a Tibetan saying that goes like selling a needle to a needle maker. If you were to bring needles to and sell them to needle makers because they don't need to buy it anymore, so Phuntsho Rinpoche said that it is just like he's trying to sell a needle to a needle maker, it will rarely be successful. Likewise, speaking all these qualities of Trungpa Rinpoche in front of his disciples may be more or less unnecessary. So please forgive me if there is anything inappropriate in what I've said. So we've now come to an end of today's class. Tomorrow we will complete the second stop. We shouldn't spend too much time in the second stop, so in one stop, so I should try to go to the third stop. Let's stop here today.